Hello and good evening. This is QTV News and I am Mamudu Gajaga. We're coming to you live from our studios along Caraba Avenue. Thank you for joining us. First, here are the main local, international and sports news headlines. President Adama Barrow, who doubles as the Chancellor of the University of the Gambia on Tuesday, presided over the inauguration of the university's newly constituted Governing Council. Following the formation of an agricultural battalion in Yundum, the Deputy CDS Major General Mamad O. Cham has described the pilot project as a success. The Gambian National Internet Governance Forum held its 7th annual forum on Monday as part of efforts to enhance Internet governance policy dialogue. In international news, scientists in South Africa are monitoring a new coronavirus variant that has been slowly spreading through the country and appears to have a high change. In sports news, the delayed handball zonal finals were held at the Independence Stadium handball court on Saturday. We will tell you who the winners are. Those were the main news headlines, and now the news in detail. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to all our viewers around the world. This is QTV News. President Adama Barrow, who doubles as the Chancellor of the University of the Gambia, on Tuesday presided over the inauguration of the university's newly constituted Governing Council. As Alusise reports, the council is mandated, among others, to ensure quality assurance.
The new Governing Council is expected to promote and ensure quality assurance in terms of getting the right lecturers at the University of the Gambia and maintaining best international standards. The government says its desire is to make the university among the best and a center of excellence, something the Governing Council is expected to put at the forefront of its tasks during its tenure. Badra Diouf, Minister of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, said the university, like all other universities, play a very important role in the development of a country. He gives an assurance of his ministry's support and cooperation to the work of the council. Minister Diouf believes effective and meaningful development cannot take place without institutions of higher learning.
It is therefore your task to ensure that that is done. The challenge facing you is ensuring quality assurance, working with NACA, sanitizing the programs of the university, making sure that they are appropriate and relevant and responsive and receptive to the development needs of this country.
The new Governing Council is chaired by Matthew P. Ndur, who says members of the council are aware of the task at hand and are ready to deliver to the expectations of all. Ndur assures accountability and transparency of resources put at the council's disposal.
And our acceptance to serve signals our commitment to execute our duties to the very best of our abilities and for the advancement of the university. In this endeavor, we acknowledge the crucial role of key stakeholders like the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, the Vice Chancellor and his management team, faculty and staff, and the entire student body. It is our wish to build a strong partnership with them towards the advancement of all sectors of the university.
The Governing Council is reconstituted by President Adama Barrow, who doubles as the Chancellor of the University of the Gambia. President Barrow thanked the council members for agreeing to serve their country to improve the highest learning institution, the UTG, which strengthens, expands, and develops the country's human resource base. He calls for collaborative efforts to better the university's performance.
In my capacity as Chancellor of the University, I renew my support to the Governing Council and confer upon it the powers and authority required to steer the affairs of the university for the attainment of our national goals. In the global context of higher education program delivery, within the scope of our higher education policy and other legal documents, the UTG Council is tasked to fulfill government expectations, guarantee student satisfaction, and provide the required human power for the labor market. It rests on you, council members, to lay the foundation on which the UTG Executive Committee will effectively execute the function of running the daily affairs of the institution.
The new council is expected to build on the gains of their predecessors and improve by learning lessons from whatever did not go right for the greater good of the UTG. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
Now, following the formation of an agricultural battalion in Yundum, the Deputy CDS of the Gambia Armed Forces, Major General Mamad O. Cham, has described the pilot project as a success during harvesting of the first crop of vegetables at their Yundum farm. Babakar C. has the rest of that story.
2 months ago, we visited this 14-hectare farm with the Chief of Defense Staff following the announcement that the soldiers will be venturing into agriculture. Now, these 26 men have delivered. After 3 months of intensive farming, the Deputy CDS has joined them during harvesting. According to him, the plan is to train more soldiers in farming to venture into agriculture, complement and support the Army's feeding of its troops.
As well as, provide nutritious food for our soldiers. And at the same time, carry out our constitutional mandate. Let's see what our resources can provide, limited as they are, but also to build training skills into these activities so that our soldiers ultimately, when they finish their national service, they have skills, and techniques with which to go out and contribute as ordinary citizens into meaningful agriculture.
The Deputy CDS described the pilot project as a success and says the Army will also venture into poultry farming.
Very soon we'll start at least a 2,000 bat experiment project again, composing of 1,000 layers and 1,000 broilers, which probably will also be a platform to train our soldiers so that by the time they get the necessary skills, we'll take them back to their various units to replicate these activities.
Last year, the Army said it will venture into large-scale agriculture in partnership with an American agricultural company based in South Africa. This is what the Deputy CDS had to say about that deal.
Our announcement was very clear, and when we were making it, we had some partners who came in and approached and said probably they've got some technical capacity and some financial capacity to support and partner with the armed forces. They later on came with an MOU which we reviewed, and then probably we proposed our own amendments to it, and in order to make sure that it was a win-win thing. Certainly, the desire to venture into large-scale agriculture is not also going to prompt us to go into something that is not advantageous to the armed forces and to the country.
After a successful harvest this time, the Army boss stated their next move.
This is just a pilot project, and if we can achieve such results, it also goes to show that our dream of going into the agricultural value chain, precisely in the production of rice into the CRR, is also a feasible option. And then we want to use the occasion to call on the Gambians, both organizations and individuals, who want to see and support the Gambia Armed Forces metamorphose into activities within our constitutional mandate that will also give the necessary training to our fine men and women in uniform.
The soldiers are still appealing to authorities, philanthropists and organizations to help them with a tractor to be able to produce more vegetables and crops. Babu Karsi, QTV News.
The Gambia National Internet Governance Forum held its 7th annual forum on Monday as part of efforts to enhance internet governance policy dialogue and discuss through a multi-stakeholders national steering committee. Omar P. Jallo tells us more about this story.
The two-day Internet Governance Forum Convergence will help to bring people together from various stakeholder groups as equals in discussions on public policy issues relating to the Internet. The suggested secretariat will be supported by the Ministry of Information and Communication Infrastructure. Although there is no negotiated outcome, the IGF informs and inspires policymakers' power in the public and private sectors. This year's national IGF is organized under the main theme, digital inclusion and access for resilient Gambia. The meeting also featured 4 sub-teams as sessions with panels on accessibility and costs, building a digital economy, the Gambia and the NDP, data protection and privacy in the Gambia, and connecting the unconnected, collaboration and community networks. In her welcoming remarks, the chairperson of the Gambia National Steering Committee, Mrs. Adama Jallo, said having a dialogue to discuss the immediate need to implement policies that ensure inclusion in internet connection, especially during a pandemic where the internet provides an essential link to information to keep our families healthy and safe during this global health crisis, is timely and important.
The internet has become a home to democratic debate and political opinion forming, either for the good or for not so good, in which case it affects everyone, even people with no access to it. Having in mind that the objective is to see how best the Gambia can achieve digital inclusion for all irrespective of where they live, which will lead to discussions on how best to mitigate and solve access, connectivity issues heading into the post-COVID-19 scenario.
In declaring the 2-day forum open, the Minister for Information and Communication Infrastructure, Ibrahima Silla, said the Gambia government is committed to digital inclusion and accessibility, reliable and affordable internet services to all Gambians, while calling on participants to contribute to this very important discussion.
The Gambia has been effectively participating at the regional level since the establishment of the West Africa Internet Governance Forum in 2010 in Dakar. The theme for this year's event resonates well with the realities of what the globe has been facing since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the hardship brought by COVID-19, one constant denominator during this pandemic is the critical role of the internet in enhancing the socio-economic development and well-being of our people, as the internet has been the key tool for continued education, business transactions, and meetings, to name a few.
The forum was initiated in late 2009 after the start of the West African Internet Governance Forum, aimed at bringing together participants drawn from national, regional, youth representatives, government, civil society organizations, academia, and the private sector to discuss current and emerging issues to help shape the internet in the Gambia. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
From that report by Omar P. Jallo, we will now go for a short commercial break, and when we return, we will continue with some more local, international, and sports news stories. Please stay tuned.
The best product in town is back. QCell's MiFi router. Get the best MiFi in the country for just $2,800 and connect up to 15 users with 4G internet speeds and a long-lasting battery life. So rush now to any of our customer care locations and get the best for less while stocks last. For more info, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Senior Boss, the Gambia's quality network. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back after that short commercial break, and if you're just joining us, this is QTV News. Published statistics show 120,000 people in the Gambia have mental disorders, 90% of whom are left out without access to good medical treatment. Zainab Haidara spoke with some stakeholders about the disorder, and here is her report.
According to a study by the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, the Gambia, mental health is a disturbance in a person's chain of thought, emotions, and behavioral pattern. A clinical psychologist and a mental health practitioner, Dr. Sidibe, explains more about the signs and symptoms of some forms of mental health.
If you see a child who is 3, 4, 5, 6 years with certain patterns of behavior like aggressiveness, cheating, lying, no remorse for what the child does despite the advices and so on, then you should start worrying that this child may have a tendency of becoming an antisocial personality later in life. So those are signs.
Z Corner for All is a youth-led organization advocating for mentally challenged people and other societal discords. One of their project's aims is to provide a rehabilitation center for the mentally ill patients. The chairperson, Asangay, said mental health is complex and complicated.
Yeah, when we talk about the issue of mental health, it doesn't only mean that people who are mad are only the person with mental health. It goes beyond that. Some people are working in industries, some people are with us in the family, they have mental disorders, but sometimes we don't detect them. What the government can do is to provide a rehabilitation center for the mentally ill people, whereby if you have mental disorders, you can reach to a psychologist or seek for psychological attention or help.
People living with mental health conditions have people they love, activities they enjoy, and dreams for their lives. As people, they deserve to be treated with dignity, and under the law, they have rights and protections. Unfortunately, it has long been the case that individuals with mental health conditions are among the most abused and discriminated against in many countries. Perhaps one day that will change. Zainab Haidara, QTV News.
Well, disturbing statistics there. The global travel restrictions by governments to cope the spread of COVID-19 has negatively affected not only humans but also animals. Osman Jatta visited the Kajikali crocodile pool in Bakau to assess the impact of the pandemic on the crocodiles. Here is our report.
The restriction caused by the pandemic has led to the closure of many wildlife parks, thereby preventing visitors and tourists from viewing such places. Kajikali Crocodile Pool is among the most famous wildlife conservation parks in the country, housing several crocodiles. The site would normally attract scores of visitors, mainly tourists. The sustainability of these sanctuaries mainly depend on fees paid by tourists. However, the emergence of COVID-19 has totally changed that. Musa Bajo has been a tourist guide at Kajikali Crocodile Pool for 10 years. He guided us through the place to experience the new normal.
As you can see, it already gave a big impact due to economically impact because we don't get tourists coming in. So that has given us a very, 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 very big impact of this place. But we're still coping. We're doing our best to cope, and we hope next year will be better.
The lack of visitors is posing a serious problem in the feeding of the crocodiles. According to Musa, it sometimes takes days before the management get money to feed these animals.
Feeding wise, yes, of course, because if you don't get money, you will not be able to feed them. And the income comes only when the tourists come in. It took days before getting money to feed them. With all that, we have never get any incident whereby they might say they're hungry. They become more hungry, that's why they become aggressive to attack people. And also they miss the atmosphere by where you go, a lot of people coming around them, touching them, and absolutely.
Musa further says that since the pandemic started, they have not received any form of assistance from anyone.
We need to develop this place into a certain standard. Also, we need economical support to uplift this place because, crocodiles they have to eat, staffs have to pay it, and all these. So we are calling both government and non-governmental organizations and individuals too to come and to support, because this is a Gambian thing.
The crocodiles are in serious need of food. However, the million-dollar question is, how long will it take for animal welfare associations, philanthropists, and well-wishers to aid these starving reptiles? With the COVID pandemic showing no signs of leaving anytime soon, wildlife reserves in the country like Kajikali will have to find new ways of moving on in order to feed its starving crocodiles. Indeed, these trying times of the COVID crisis shall always be remembered in the history books of the country. Reporting for QTV News, Osman Jatta.
From that report by Osman Jatta, we go into international news. Well, as the world continues to grapple with the COVID-19 pandemic, which has already killed thousands of people around the world, scientists in South Africa are monitoring a new coronavirus variant that has been slowly spreading through the country and appears to have a high change rate, according to the country's National Institute for Communicable Diseases. Omar P. Jallo has the rest of that story.
South Africa is the continent's hardest hit country, with more than 2.7 million COVID-19 cases and 81,830 deaths reported. Now comes the bad news that the country's scientists have detected a new coronavirus variant with multiple mutations. However, they are yet to establish whether it is more contagious or able to overcome the immunity provided by the vaccines or prior infection, according to the country's National Institute for Communicable Disease. According to experts, most South Africa's coronavirus cases are currently caused by the Delta variant. The new variant, known as C12, was identified in South Africa last week by the KwaZulu-Natal Research and Innovation and Sequencing Platform in a draft study that has yet to be peer-reviewed. The C12 variant, which was first detected in India, caught scientists' attention because its mutation is almost twice as fast as observed in other global variants. South Africa's National Institute for Communicable Disease researcher Penny Moore said during a virtual press briefing that they are yet to assess experimental data to confirm how the variant reacts in terms of sensitivity to antibodies, but he expressed considerable confidence that the vaccine being rolled out in South Africa will continue to protect people against severe illness and death. The new variant has been detected in each of South Africa's 9 provinces, as well as in several other countries, including the United Kingdom, New Zealand and China. The new variant made up just 1% of recorded COVID-19 samples in June, growing to 3% in July, while the Delta variant accounts for 67% and 89% in those months respectively. Scientists have observed that C12 appears to mutate almost twice as fast as other global variants, and the mutation also appears to be similar to those found in other variants with higher transmissibility and reduced sensitivity to antibodies. Scientists are carrying out tests to determine what effects these mutations have on the virus. The C12 sequence remains relatively low compared to the highly transmissible Delta and Beta variants, which emerged in South Africa late last year, as it has been detected in less than 3% of genome sequence. The Beta variant drove a second wave of infection in December and January, and the country is now grappling with a persistent third wave of the Delta variant. It is too early to know how or whether the new variant will bring infection rates as high as other variants. For now, the country remains on high alert. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
From that story, coming up next is sports news. The delayed handball zonals final were held at the Independence Stadium handball court on Saturday. Bakau women defeated Serekunda East, while Serekunda East Male triumphed over Bakau in a close game. More in this report. Bakau women's handball team put in a dominant performance from start to finish, as the 19-7 scoreline indicated. An early fired-up attack ensured 4 straight goals were scored without reply, with more pace, power and agility. Serekunda East's reliance on their star player Mam Drame didn't pay off, although she made several runs and ended up being blocked. Due to her style of play, she ran into trouble with the Bakau ladies, throwing their bodies in front of her, blocking her scoring opportunities. After the break, she scored 4 of her side's 7 goals. The Bakau ladies ensured experience and pace counted to their advantage with a spirited second-half performance.
I feel happy, obvious, because it has been a long time. We haven't been training. It's because of the pandemic. But alhamdulillah, today we won our final zonal handball.
In the second game of the evening, the Serekunda East male team won against Bakau in a dramatic fashion in what was a close contest. Their attack was almost unstoppable and got an immediate response from the Bakau team. Numerous times during the game, the teams were neck and neck. Late in the game, as night crept in, Serekunda East scored 3 goals in succession to win the tie. The victory was special to Pa Alinjai.
Fighting very hard for this game because this is our first time winning them. and we're well prepared for this game. For sure, we're well prepared for this game. And I'm so happy right now. I'm so emotional right now. You can see it from my face right now.
Handball, as with every sport in the country, was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. The league was delayed, as was the zonal competition, which had reached the final stage. Staging the final was seen as a success by Mamadou Souare, the president of the Gambia Handball Association.
We are appealing to all stakeholders to come and support handball. Handball is a very beautiful game, and it's a peaceful game, and it can do a lot in the Gambia here. Because we want to promote handball so that after football, you get handball. That's what we are aiming for.
Handball is a team sport in which 2 teams of 7 players each pass a ball using their hands, with the aim of throwing it into the other team's goal. A standard match consists of 2 periods of 30 minutes, and the team that scores the most goals wins. Mamadou Gajaga, QTV News. Well, that's it for the news tonight, but don't forget to join us at 10 for another bulletin.